Good evening to you all. Good evening to our participants from Israel, from the US, and from everywhere else. We're very glad to have you here with us on this session of Entrepreneurship on Tap as part of the Global Entrepreneurship Week in Israel. And before we start, I'd like to thank our sponsors, the American Embassy in Israel. I'd like to add our supporters, Pearl Cohen Tzedek Latzer law firm, and in particular Jody Stein, our legal advisor, and everybody else that has helped us, supported us, volunteered for us. Thank you all for being here for us. The topic is amazing tonight. Being in a startup, running a startup is always challenging, but you know, there are extreme points that are beyond imagination. And I heard the Keren Leshem's story, and I thought she could probably provide us with some information about these challenges, extreme challenges. A few words about Keren. Keren Leshem is Okan's emergency CEO. Previously held local and international positions in both pharma and medical device companies, veteran in the startup world with a medical background and a proven track record in raising money, $70 million to date, funding through non-dilutive sources, M&As, and creative licensing deals. And Keren, thank you so much for being here with us. I just wanted to add that Entrepreneurship on Tap is now celebrating 10 years to inception. And for this reason, we decided to celebrate in a very special way. And that is, we have had only women on stage this year. And we've had some wonderful women. So Keren, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Let me just share my screen. So hello everybody, and thank you for joining. I know there are people from all over the world, and some of you, it's your weekend, even morning time. I appreciate the time you take, mainly to hear me complain about the last 7 to 8 months of my career here at Okan. But to be honest, I think this is a great opportunity for each and every one of you to maybe learn or take away some of the activities and challenges and resolutions we've done as a team here at Okan, facing numerous challenges and hardships on our way to great success. So first and foremost, of course, I'd like to introduce the company. Okan is not a very small or young startup. So we've been around for about a decade. I've joined Okan about 1.5 years ago as Vice President Sales. And I today lead the company together with 90% women and a couple men that we like, but they don't really count as much as the women leadership, of course. And they know that very quickly they can put on a blonde mask and become women if need be. But the company really has all departments. We sell products today. We have a full research and development team and lab. We do all the manufacturing here in clean rooms. We have a logistics department, a clinical department, of course, a medical department, a regulatory department, and we also have an office in Zurich, Switzerland, where we have a marketing and sales team that do wonders in terms of bringing our products to market. Today, the company has 21 employees, and hopefully we will grow in the near future. We have 2 main assets, and as you can see here, we are in the women's health space. We deliver drugs to the uterus. Our first product, you can see on the left-hand side, is the Ballerine. We call it an IUB, intrauterine ball. And what it does, it brings copper to the uterus, and in doing so, makes sure that us women don't become pregnant. It's used as a LARC, what we call a long-acting reversible contraception. It's used for 5 years in the body, And this is a product that we currently manufacture here and sell in 30 territories across the world through an extensive network of distributors, wonderful partners, and we even have our own sales teams here in Israel and also in Austria. The second product, as you can see, it's based on the same frame, is called the Seed. And I think that the best way of showing you how disruptive and how exit strategy this product is by showing you a very short video. This is going to take about 4 minutes of your time, and then we'll go on to all the problems and issues that we've had. So here we go. We're going to share a video for about 4 minutes, and then I'll be back.
Up to 25% of women of reproductive age are affected by abnormal uterine bleeding. 81% of women find heavy periods disruptive to their sex life. 66% of women feel exhausted. 42% of women suffer from depression due to their heavy periods. And abnormal uterine bleeding is the fourth most common cause for visiting OBGYN. First-line treatment is hormonal therapies, resulting in side effects like headaches, depression, sense of bulkiness, venothrombotic events, to name just a few. The second line of treatment, global endometrial ablation, an invasive and painful procedure using heat or electricity that requires a hospital setting. They are not free from side effects, such as uterine wall adhesions, and always lead to infertility. This results in $12 billion annual indirect costs. An innovative super elastic technology platform called IUB, intrauterine ball. This IUB platform technology is three-dimensional and very small, is flexible with no sharp edges, is inserted just like an IUD with the thinnest insertion tube and a very short learning curve for the physician. It has a built-in safety mechanism to minimize the risk of perforation. Market validated in over 95,000 women, an ideal carrier for any drug or chemical that can be put on the memory-shaped frame to treat various uterine indications. It's inserted just like an IUD, comes with a built-in safety mechanism that turns away from the fundus and coils into a small three-dimensional ball shape that is flexible and adjusts itself to the uterine size, shape, and contractions. The SEED that utilizes the IUB platform stands for Spherical Endometrium Ablation Device. It's currently in phase 2 clinical studies showing very encouraging results. The SEED is a 30-minute pain-free procedure in the physician's clinic and is as easy as an IUD insertion, not requiring any capital equipment and with a very, very short learning curve. The SEED gives the endometrium a full reset versus a full destruction compared to global ablation therapies. It's non-invasive, pain-free, with no need for general anesthesia or hospitalization. It's shaped for women. It overcomes problems of uterine size and shape limitations. Highly cost-effective, with less than half the cost compared to current treatments, creating an additional revenue stream for healthcare professionals. There are over 2 million annual global endometrial ablation procedures around the world, with over 750,000 of those only in the U.S. Compared to the current global endometrial ablation treatments, the SEED is a standalone disposable drug product and creates a new clinician revenue source because it's an in-office procedure. It doesn't require any capital equipment and doesn't leave a large footprint. We expect the cost of the SEED procedure to be well under $2,000 compared to the high indirect costs that current treatments create that are between $3,000 and all the way up to $8,000. The insertion itself takes a few minutes. The product stays inside the body for up to 30 minutes, is then removed by pulling on the strings, and the woman is free to go home. The learning curve is very short for the healthcare professionals. The procedure itself is nearly pain-free. There's no hospitalization required or general anesthesia. And the efficacy expected is well over 80%. The preliminary clinical results are very encouraging. As you can see, across the board, we see very promising results in terms of reduction of bleeding with a simple 30-minute one-time procedure. If we zoom in on one of our first patients, we can see that this woman came in with a PBAC score close to 700, and we were able to reduce her bleeding to below 30 with her 30 PBAC score in merely months, a score that is almost a third of what a normal menstruation cycle is like. She got her life back without any question. With our patented platform technology and our products and additional products that we have in our pipeline, we're one step closer to revolutionizing women's health while improving quality of life. Thank you for your time. Ocon Healthcare.
So without further ado, let me start complaining about the process. And I chose to bring this slide forward because it really represents what people think on the left-hand side. So you have a big idea, someone throws some money at you, you build it, and an overnight success. But what it actually really looks like is what you see on the right-hand side. You start and you just go through a disastrous period of time. People think everything is bright and shiny, but you fail a lot, you learn a lot, you get so insecure, you hear so many no's, you work really hard. Usually you don't get paid enough for all of it. Life happens, and then you succeed. And even then, it's just some of the time. So what were the problems here at Ocon? And bear with me and take a deep breath because there are a few of these. The first and foremost problem was that the board was exhausted and mistrusting. So when I joined the company, my only project or issue was to understand why sales aren't booming as the company thought. Very, very quickly, the board approached me and said, I'll close down this company. What do you think? And I said, I don't know. Well, give me a month. Let me check. And I looked at the team. I looked at the patents. I looked at the product. I looked at the market. We did a huge market survey on the seed product. I myself inserted the ballerine to make sure it works just like we said. And I told the board, I said, you would be crazy to close down this company. We need to fix a few things. And they said, well, welcome to the board. You're going to be the new CEO. We're going to infuse some money. We're going to do a complete restart here. But still, you realize that the board was exhausted. They had so many promises. This company has been around for 10 years. It had 5 rounds of investment. Almost $20 million were invested in it, all the way from its inception phase in many, many different layers, with many, many different rights, with many, many different investors and shareholders. And they were just exhausted of hearing how great it is and how wonderful it's going to be. And while the sales were declining, there were still so many issues. The former management could not get money infused into the company for over 2 years. And so they really had to make a decision. Do we shut down or do we down round? And so we had a very exhausted board. They were mistrusting. And yet they still managed to say, we're going to put you in charge. We're looking for a partner. Will you join us? And one of the takeaways from this, from today's talk is you have to be optimistic to the point of stupid. And I think that's where I was. And I said, sure, what could be, more fun than leading a women's health company? What is there to do? Let me just take a better look. So what else was the problem? We had a super distressed team. They lost faith completely in the products and the company and the management and the board. Some of them got up and left. Some of them were just not even showing up to work. Most of them had a decrease in salary. A lot of people were laid off. It was just a terrible time to try and get, a revamp of the situation. And so we really had to deal also with a very distressed and very unhappy team. And of course, there's no cash in the bank, nothing. There's a huge monthly burn rate, 30 employees. We had sales in the pipeline that we needed to finance and to get out into the market in order to get paid. The bank was not willing to give us a loan. Looking at our status in terms of cash, this was a serious problem. In the midst of all of this, and once we realized that the initial investment that the board made to get the company up and running wasn't enough and we needed a complement round, we quickly started to look for money, and the founder and CMO decided that he's going to leave the company unless some of his requirements were met. We could not meet his requirements. We tried our best, and while we said we can probably look for a different chief medical officer, please stay on board with us, and he chose not to. And this was in the midst of an investment round. And of course, as I mentioned, the sales were on the decline, stagnation with no new territory expansion. This is also a problem that we had, or we were facing at the time. This is the last slide. It still has a few lines, but there's still some more stuff coming at us. And while I took the position as CEO, a nice and friendly doctor in France tried to remove a ballerine to one of his patients, and the strings from the product tore off, which is a very common issue with any IUD that you try to take out. But this doctor, unfortunately, decided to go to the Ministry of Health in France, and all hell broke loose. If any of you know what an FSN means, it's a field safety notice. It's about 2 minutes from a recall, and we had territories in the world we don't even sell, like Hong Kong or Canada, rush to get information from us. And while all of this is happening, the head of regulatory that is in charge of exactly this decided to leave the company and look for better alternatives, by the way, in cardiology. If that's not enough, our lead product, our claim to fame, our seed, was in a clinical stagnation. We could not get more sites opened, Corona hit, we couldn't get more women into the study, and it was just standing still, to say the least. In addition, our office lease was coming to an end. What do we do? Do we move? Do we stay? Can we get a discount? Can we not? It's a regulatory nightmare to move because you have to move all of the manufacturing and all of the activities around the quality and regulatory, and it's just a nightmare to do that in the midst of an MD to an MDR transition of the entire world, and COVID hit. So this was also something that we had thrown at us and had to consider, because it's either staying put and paying another 3 years in a space that may not be suitable for what we need, or move an office. In addition to all that, on our seed, we were missing a very specific patent, which we covered already, by the way, but this was something that we found out as we went along, and we had started having due diligence from interested investors, and so we quickly fixed that, and I'll show you how. And there's no actual plan in sight. I remember the board telling me, you go sit down. It was the 12th of March. I remember that very, very clearly, and on the 13th of March, I had to ship out all of the employees on an absence of leave because of COVID. And then, of course, COVID hit, and that was the end of what is the problem with restarting a startup. So as you can see, this was a very, very weathering storm to withhold. And I want to show you how we fixed it. And hopefully you can take some of these activities, actions, frame of mind to your businesses and to your projects. I just want to say, if anybody has any questions, you can go ahead and put them down in the chat or in the Q&A, and Ela, that you met in the beginning, will make sure to ask them at the end of the session, or if she thinks they're important enough, she'll also stop me here. So, what's the problem? No problem. How do we get the board rehabilitated? So first of all, and the most important thing, and you'll see that throughout the entire presentation, is that you have to communicate. You have to manage up. You have to meet with your board members. You have to discuss with them. You have to show immediate actions, such as burn rate decrease, which, thank you, COVID, allowed us to do fairly immensely by sending all of us into absence of leave. We had to fix the board. The board had exhausted and mistrusting members. We had to bring in new members, meaning new money. I was looking for a chairwoman, and that's the first thing I did, is I called up a very, very well-respected, strong female professional called Dr. Jessica Grossman. And when I called her up and I said, Jessica, I just want you to see what we're working on, she looked at our products and she said, keep your money. I just want a percent in this company. And so, of course, the first thing I asked her to do is to be my chairman. Unfortunately, she couldn't, but she did recommend Dr. Anula Jayusaria, which will be joining us soon. Having a chairwoman of the magnitude of Anula Jayusaria really brings the board comfort that we have a ship that is going to head in the right direction, and our direction in the next coming years is, of course, the United States. The founder was removed from the board. I think this also added and regained trust. I think that they wanted to see a new era on the board. And so actually this became something positive rather than the negative. And of course, the new investors that recently complemented the round of our former investors. And these are investors from all over the world, from the US and from Israel and even from Europe, add additional comfort to the board. So I think that the first and foremost important thing is to get the board up and running and trusting. And we did immediate steps to make sure that these are done. So, team distressed and lose faith. Again, here, open communication. I shared all of my board slides with my entire team. I showed them that we are not out of the dark and we have a lot of work to do, and people that want to come on board, more than welcome. People that feel they cannot endure, this hardship, of course, are sadly open to find other opportunities. But I really think that the one thing that we did immediately was remove these poisonous members. Do you know these people that walk around the office halls and kind of try to make sure that everybody is as non-optimistic as they are? This is terrible, and these products are no good, and we're not going to, nothing is going to become of this, and this, and then that. And so first and foremost, these poisonous members were immediately removed. And thank you, COVID, for allowing that to be quickly done, and also for allowing us to have an absence of leave where people understood that this is for the best of the company. One of the things that we used quite heavily is our network. I have my own network and my team members have their own network, and we were really fishing for good people, especially in the management, people that we can look up to and that can help us through these turbulent times, people that realize that it's very difficult through COVID to find work, so they may be able to work in 50 or 60% positions, maybe work as outsourced initially, and then join us as full team members. And so we used quite heavily our network to get these team members on board. Another thing that was very, very important to do, and believe me, very, very time consuming, is one-on-one discussions. Take every single one of our team members, all the way from the manufacturing, all the way to my CFO and all the management, and to have one-on-one discussions. It's time consuming, but absolutely necessary to learn each and every team member, what their motivation is, what makes them click, what they can bring to the table, where I should really utilize their strengths and where their weaknesses are. This was very, very important. Also to build trust, that the team knows that my door is always open and I'm working as hard as they are to make sure we save this company. The other thing that we've done without any cash is team building activities with wonderful support of two of my members. We did a lot of team building activities that were cash free, having a lunch together, or doing some games, or doing things that were really apt to take care of the distrust or the loss in faith, and to also allow our team to work together. One of the things that we've done also to really bring the team together is to work on non-dilutive grants, and we'll talk about that when we look at the money and the cash situation. People working together appreciate each other more, and everyone pitching in brings a lot more than just the sum of its parts. And so I want to thank COVID for allowing me, to get rid of my poisonous members and bring in fantastic people that were available to work and available to work immediately. So no cash left in the bank, no problem, right? So quick reduction in burn rate, we talked about that. The CFO and myself rushed very, very quickly to get non-dilutive funds. And I'm really happy to say that in no time, and thank you to the Israeli government really for being so quick, we got 3.5 million shekels in grant. That is a little bit over $1 million from the Office of the Chief Scientist and also the Department of Industry and Trade. These non-dilutive grants really helped us also with our board trust, and also allow the board to realize that there's more money coming in, not only from their own pockets. We did a strong push on customer payments. We had a lot of payments out because of COVID. A lot of customers were away from the office, didn't have the ability to pay. And so we really pushed and helped our customers pay as much as they can and as quickly as they can to make sure that the cash is in our bank. And of course, and unfortunately, some of our service providers were really yelling and shouting, but we delayed any payment possible. And we promised them that we will do so or pay them as quickly as possible, but some of them were slightly unhappy, unfortunately. you always rather pay your salaries than pay your outsourced service providers, unfortunately. So the founder and the CMO leave the company, unbelievable, in the midst of our compliment round. And so immediately we have to find a chief medical officer, someone who can back up the company professionally, medically, look at the pipeline and make sure we're on the right track. I was so privileged to meet a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful doctor and human being called Professor Sergio Khaimovich. I remember we met, because we couldn't meet in the office, we met at my house, and I think we sat for 4 hours talking about the company, maybe 20 minutes, and other than that, just literally understanding the vision and the mission. And I hope that one day when we make sure to bring in a lot more money, we can actually pay Dr. Khaimovich. But Sergio joined us as an expert in his field, and he brought so much new energy and wisdom. And I think that actually, when we look at the opportunity that this provided the company, it really upgraded us in terms of staff. And also one of the things, and I remember Dr. Jessica Grossman that I spoke about, she quickly became my mentor and my go-to person. And I remember I called her and I said, Jessica, oh my gosh, we're in the middle of a round and you know, the founder is leaving, what should I do? And what she said to me, I carry with me until the day I die. She said, we do our best. And sometimes our best is not good enough. And if this is what he chose, and sometimes founders make decisions based on emotion, and you know you did your best, that's the best you can do, and that's the best lie you can tell all of your current pending investors, which I did, and actually found that a lot of my investors understood. They have experience with founders, and they know that as long as you give them a background and you show that you tried your best, they realize that there was really nothing else that we could have done to make sure to keep him involved. So the sales demonstrate decline. Here, there's an unfair bias towards me because I did work for 6 months as the VP sales, and so I kind of learned about the product in depth. But one of the things that we have, and it's a problem with any startup, is that we overemphasize how wonderful our product is, and we kind of forget that it's not the best thing in the world. And every product has a niche, and every product has a perfect customer that it fits. And we really have to understand our product, what it does and what it doesn't do. And looking at the ballerine, we know that it's a safer product and it's a much more advanced product. And of course, it has a better profile in terms of quality of life for women, but it's not a better product in terms of efficacy. It won't provide more pregnancy relief or any of that. And so we really had to look at real evidence on what the product is and what it's not, and to make sure to communicate that and to really focus our distributors and focus our team and make sure that they sell, because once the doctor chooses the right customer and this customer is happy, that means the doctor is happy, and that means he's going to sell and insert more IUDs. And so that's what we've done with the help of my fantastic team, is to really focus our distributors and our salespeople to make sure they also realize and understand the product. The second thing we've done is we looked fiercely on low-hanging fruit distributors, or where we can make sure to bring the product as quickly as possible. And I got to tell you, we signed amazing agreements, and thank you, COVID, for that, because on a normal era, we would have to travel and create relationships and go out for dinners and blah, blah, blah. But here with Zoom, we managed to get so many distribution agreements made very, very quickly. And so we looked at these low-hanging fruit like Turkey, the UK, Ireland, all of South America, and we signed really, really, really fantastic deals. One of the things I struggle with, because I'm an unruly optimist, is to underpromise. I love to show that everything is going to be great and we're going to sell and this is going to be wonderful. But my CFO held me back and he said, Keren, underpromise. The board is done listening to all these promises. Worst case, we'll succeed. And so we underpromised, and we definitely overperformed this year, which makes me incredibly proud that is what we decided to do. Also, another thing, COVID really presented a great opportunity to work with these superstars that are everywhere in the world, and they know the business well. They're able to take action quickly, and we made sure that we work with these superstars to get us distribution. We worked with the superstar salespeople in our distributor organization, and we also worked with the superstar doctors that we knew that we could push, and I used to call it, or I still call it, push the pushers. As long as they push in IUDs, we're going to help them. And by giving our distributors better margins, they could give their doctors better margin, and that became quickly translated into sales. The other thing that we've done is we really celebrated our wins. We had so many great products and so many great distribution agreements signed. We just went out, all out. We went to the newspaper, and we went on LinkedIn, and we went on Facebook, and we just celebrated every single win to make sure that the whole world knows that we're going to bring these products into more countries around the world. And if worse comes to worse, you can always blame COVID, right? And I always say that as long as men want to have sex, women are going to have to find a way to prevent pregnancy, which anyway, you know, why is it our problem? But this is what happens. And while COVID was a facilitator for more birth control options, we still saw one carve out of a whole quarter where women in Europe couldn't get to their doctors because there was only emergency medicine. So worst comes to worst, we could always blame COVID, but we didn't blame COVID this year. We had a very good one. So field safety notice, a minute from recall, what do you do? So first of all, I took a deep breath and I looked at my new CTO, Shani, and I said to her, and she remembers this, I trust you and your problems are of no concern to me. Go fix it. And so she did. Slowly and surely, she went by department in every single country. And she really, really did such a wonderful job at making sure to explain to the authorities that this is something that is very, very normal in terms of IUDs. And today I can say that this saga is behind us. But you really have to trust your team. You cannot do everything alone. And you have to really understand what actions need to be done and communicate. We had to communicate to the authorities. We communicated to our board. We showed everybody what the risk could be. And slowly and surely, we got this done. One of the things that I did also to make sure that the team feels a lot more appreciated is to look at my superstars in the team, the ones that held and withheld this stormy weather and promoted them. So my directors became VPs and my VPs became CTO. And I think that this also allowed the team to take a lot more responsibility on their departments and to really work hard to make sure that we weathered this storm well. Clinical stagnation. And here, this requires a lot of creative thinking. And thank you to my VP Clinical that brought in so much new insight. So she came completely fresh, took in a job at 50% and looked at the whole situation differently. And what we've done here is we, on one hand, pushed the sites with incentive programs that weren't very expensive, but worked very well. And on the other hand, we looked at the sites there because we couldn't travel, we couldn't do anything due to COVID, and thankfully we don't have any engineers in our products, and it's only products that are currently in Bulgaria where we do have the clinical study. And so what we've done is we took the first site or the second site, we took the PI, the primary investigator, and we asked him to do all the training to the other sites. And that way we could open more sites, have the primary investigator train the other sites, and in that way increase and continue pushing through this clinical study. I'm really happy to say that at the end of this year, we'll be closing down this phase 2 clinical study with really, really encouraging results. And I have a good friend who always says it's not only about strategy, it's also about luck. And so here we were also lucky. First time around, we took the seed and tested it on real women, and we saw incredible drops in bleeding. And this is something that we are very, very fortunate and of course, very, very lucky to demonstrate. This is almost coming to an end. So the office lease was coming to an end. And again, thank you, COVID. Opportunities are amazing. We are now moving to bigger, better, nicer offices with over $10,000 a month savings, and just because of COVID. So we'll deal with the regulatory, we'll deal with the assembly, we'll deal with our clean rooms. And we have a saying in Hebrew that says, Meshanem makom, meshanem mazal. And I think that if you change your location, you may also change your luck. And we're all looking forward to, on the 1st of January, to really have our new offices with a new pathway into the future. No actual plan in sight. The CEO was removed and I sat on his seat. And here, my best support that I can give to any founder or anyone dealing with these turbulent times is to think short term. Don't look at bigger plans and don't look at bigger products and don't look at bigger sales. Just look 3 to 6 months ahead and say, all right, let me pick my fights. What do I need to do to make this a success in the short term? So I knew I had to fix my board. I knew I had to fix my team, and I knew I had to fix my products and my money problem. And so these were my very, very short-term goals, and those are the ones that we rush towards to make sure that they are met. And here I also want to say thank you to my today best friend and CFO, Amir, that really, with me, co-founded this new Ocon and was by my side. Your CFO in these turbulent times is your best friend. He's the one who demonstrates agility and financial stability. And he would walk into my office every day with a pout. Keren, we have no money, we have no money. And again, being an optimist that I am, it will be okay, we will be fine. No one's gonna let this company fall. Look at what we have, look at the team that we built, look at our board. And so my job was to be the optimistic and his job was to be the actual pessimistic but true strategy maker. Communication, and that's again something I continue to repeat, up, down, all around. You communicate up to your board, you communicate down to your team, you communicate to your network all the time. You communicate in the news, you communicate on LinkedIn, you communicate on Facebook, on Twitter, wherever you can communicate. This is your best option to get the word out. This is a great company. Look at what we're doing. We're doing innovation in women's health. And when, you know, a lot of these women entrepreneurs ask me, but how do you get money? Because most of these financial institutions and VCs are men. And I say to her, well, the first and foremost thing that we do, we make women calm down. And so once we calm women down because they're safe in terms of pregnancy and they're not bleeding immensely, they're calm, their husbands are happy, their kids are happy, their bosses are happy, and so are we are happy. And so this has to be everyone's target to fund. And one of the things that I've seen recently on LinkedIn is the abbreviation of team. And I so agree with that. Together, everyone achieves more. And if there's one thing I learned about this whole 7 months craziness at Ocon is that I'm only the orchestrator and I'm the one who delivers the message, but the real hard workers are the team. I can't do it without them. I have to trust them. They all know their job so well and they do it until, and they don't give up until they succeed. And so my team today is a team to go to, is a team that I trust completely, and together everyone achieves more. Last but not least, COVID. And again, being the optimist that I am, you always have to think positive of every situation. COVID is wonderful, right? We saved so much money on travel. We saved so much time on travel. We saved so much money on salaries. We were able to have an absence of leave for 2 months. We saved hundreds of thousands of dollars. We have quicker deals. We're signing a huge deal now in Russia in 2 months. Never pre-COVID day was this an option. It would always take 6 to 8 months and travel and back and forth. We have more office time to communicate, to think, to really be together, to learn to live together as a team, to brainstorm and to cry on each other's shoulders. And if all else fails, you can always blame COVID and say COVID is terrible because of COVID. And so I really see COVID as an immense opportunity, and I only see the good in it. And this is going to be a new era. I don't know what an era means. Is it a year? Is it 2 years? Is it 5? Is it a decade? But it's definitely going to be an era of us being a lot more efficient and a lot less expensive. We don't have to travel as much. We can get things done on Zoom or on Teams or on Facebook or on LinkedIn. And this really is a new era for all the startups. I, for the first time in my life, raised money through Zoom in the US. Who would have ever thought to raise money from a US investor through video chat? This is unbelievable. And so when I say new era, I look at it as a very positive force that will really allow us to be more efficient and a lot less expensive. And last but not least, and I promise here I'm done, is giving back. As a woman and as an entrepreneur and as a CEO and as a mother and as a daughter and as a sister, I always believe in giving back. If you give back, you get so much more. And I really count our blessings, and I make sure my team counts their blessings, and my team also gives back. And the way we give back is we adopted what we call Michlala for her. It's a academy for women coming out of the prostitution cycle. So we donate money twice a year during the holidays out of our own pocket, but also we offer interim jobs for these women to show them, you know, how an R&D department looks like. They help us with our packaging needs and our manufacturing and our administration departments and even our marketing departments, because these women in this academy learn on all wakes of life. And it is such a pleasure to see these women, after having such a hard life, joining the cycle of work, looking at other women, if managers and if employees and if just colleagues, coming in and working. And this is something that is very important to give back. And I really believe that every single woman that we helped shape will also give back to her community and pay it forward. The other thing that I wanted to make sure that you all hear of is the type of employees. And so while we are significantly more women, we still have a variety of women and men that work here. We have single moms, and we have LGBTQ, and we have younger students that work here, and we have older near pension women that work here, and we have crazy people like the CEO that work. And this really brings together a variety of thoughts. When all of us sit around the table with our backgrounds and our age and our experience and our thought process, this brings so much creative work and thinking and strategy that it really is fantastic to see evolve. As an orchestrator, to look at my team, and I look at them in awe every single time they think of another solution and they think of another creative way of tackling all these issues that we talked about. And there are so many more, but I really tried to narrow them down to things that may affect all of us, that I recommend making sure that everyone has all kinds of employees and not just one version of them. Me, myself, I give back by giving back my experience. I'm a mentor for the 8400 Health Network. I think that network is so innovative and brings together so many professionals. I'm currently coaching an amazing entrepreneur that's bringing such wonderful femtech to our society. And I'm very privileged that I was given the opportunity to help her along her way. So last words of advice, and then I'm done. If there's one thing I had to choose out of all of my advice, I would really say optimism on the verge of stupidity. It brings the team together, it brings investors together, and it really brings yourself into the game with a big smile, because we have to enjoy what we do. The second advice that I can give, again, is communication and network. Seeing the people in your network excited about what you're building is what keeps you going in the tough days. And believe me, there's so many tough days. We had so many investors doing all sorts of due diligence activities, and to hear the no at the end of the day, and it's not 1, and it's not 10, and it's not 50, it's so much more, really is hard. But your network, being excited about what you do and helping you, is something that keeps you going. And also, your network can give you the right people, information, and advice. I've done it, and I've used my network, and I'm so thankful for my network to help build the board, build the team, and make sure I build the products and get cash. And so communication and network, super important. Also, team and strategy. You can't do it alone, no matter what. You need people around you that are smart, that you trust, and that know their work. I have a very famous sentence that I say, and I said it before: your problems are of no concern to me. Go get your work done. Come back to me when you get it solved. But I think it really gives people the notion that they can do it, and they're independent, and they really come back with creative and amazing solutions. And I'm very, very lucky to have a very strong team around me. The other thing that I wanted to say, that it's okay to reassess your strategy along the way. Your short-term strategy should be very, very concise and very defined, and you got to go at it. But when you look at long-term strategies today, you know, our board and my management team are already looking, you know, 2 steps ahead. And we're looking at the team and our work and what we do, and we're already thinking Ocon could become a hub for female technology. We have all of these departments here ready to work. We can even be an investor in new technologies. And so these are reassessments of strategies along the way based on successes that you've had with your short-term strategy. Last but not least, don't forget to have fun. Celebrate every single success, big or small, every single word that you get that puts you forward, every compliment. I remember that one of a president of a very, very big company in the US that is now joining our board as well, said to my VP Marketing and Medical Affairs, "This is just wonderful, Dani." And I said to her, "Do you know who said this? The president of XYZ said this to you." And so you have to celebrate every single compliment and every single success. We look back at these past 7 to 8 months, and I tell my team, we're not out of the dark yet. We still have to raise more money. We still have to get more sales. We still have to penetrate into more markets. We still have to demonstrate success, but we definitely have successes, big and small. And so anybody who wants to get in touch with me, wants the presentation in some or other way, has questions, these are my contact details. I'm always available for anybody and everyone at any time for any discussion. Thank you very, very much.
Wow. Wow. This is 8 months. This is just breathtaking. I can't believe all this happened in a period of 8 months. It's absolutely incredible.
Soon you'll see, we'll announce our new investors. I'm very, very lucky and proud and honored to have them join this roller coaster fun. And I told you, I said, you know, when we first started talking about how to restart up, I said, yeah, I have a few examples, but putting them down on a presentation is really breathtaking. So we were busy doing, not thinking. So.
Yes, absolutely. Look, you spoke a lot about the relationships, and I think this is one of the key things that you were doing during this period. And you know, we often hear about challenges of running the board. Could you expand a little bit about you said they were tired. You obviously had some investors in the board. Were they willing to step out?
Again, very, very fortunately, I knew the main investors in the company. And so we had a relationship of trust, I think, for over a decade. And so having that initial trust helped a lot in just putting in the down round and initial money, but we still had to produce results. And I knew that if I bring in more people to the board, investors, industry experts, people that believe in the company as they do, they would feel a lot more encouraged. And even if they had to put in more money later on, which they don't, but they would have had to do that, I think that built a lot of their trust and also encouraged them to say, okay, she was right, there's something here. This guy is joining, and this woman is joining, and this investor is joining. And so I think that it brought a lot of faith back into the board, and I think communication is key. Who says a board meeting needs to be every 3 months? We met every month. Every month, we met every month, and I showed them our progress. I showed them some of the things that I found out, some of the things that I wanted to change. I consulted with them. You know, these board members are so smart. They're so experienced. They do this day in, day out. They can help you. And I was very lucky to have them help me think and strategize. And so, yeah, it's a lot about communication, but also about work.
We have one Joel John saying, amazing job by the team, amazing leadership, very inspirational, exactly what I needed. So I'm sure exactly what a lot of us need and will need in future. I mean, I find this inspiring and incredible. Yeah.
You know, I was we have a group of women in women management in biotech, and we lately had a meeting where we saw one of the pillars of the community that gives coaching to CEOs. And one of the things that she said is to look in before you look out. And I really took that with me, because if you look inside, you're alone. It's you and yourself. The only way that you can do this is with a team. And when I say team, it's the board. And when I say team, it's my management. And when I say team, it's also our families, and everybody's there to support. And I think it's very, very important. I remember sitting my kids down and saying, I know there's no abroad, but there will be no mother in the next year, because I got to work hard. And so that support from the team, seeing the progress, from the board seeing the progress, and from your family is super important. You can't do that without it.
Well, obviously you bring a huge amount of optimism, which is
yeah,
key
stupidity. I call it optimism, but I think it's stupidity. I really think it's stupidity. Ask my CFO; he will say she's crazy. She's crazy.
And you know, had you had the opportunity to choose a superpower, you know, to be a superwoman, what would you choose? What would you elect for yourself as an extra?
Again, Ayla, I'm sorry.
What feature of superwoman would you elect if you could have the choice?
Wow, what feature of a superwoman? I would say the ability to count till 10 before you explode.
The ability to
count to 10 before.
Okay. Yeah. Yes.
That's superwoman quality to me.
Yeah. Well, it's
someone who can really listen before giving advice.
well, you're probably a bit of a superwoman as is, but we hear, you know, interesting choices. Oftentimes, the ability to fly, or to be invisible, or to see the future. But the one that I was most touched with was the ability to forgive.
To forgive, yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes, absolutely. To forgive.
Yeah. Anyway, it's been incredible to listen to, and I'm crossing my fingers for you and Okan. And I'm sure you're going to be a great success. And I would love to hear more about what's going on. And thank you for being here, and thank you everybody else for being here.
Thank you very much. I appreciate everyone's time.
Okay, it's a great way to end the Global Entrepreneurship Week 2020 series. So thanks again for being here. Bye-bye. Take care.